What happens to our voices during the holidays? Between noisy parties, outdoor gigs, lots of chatting, we're often shouting to be heard or overusing our voices without proper care. And if you've ever ended a party hoarse or found yourself croaking the next morning, you know what I'm talking about. Your vocal folds are delicate. Hi, and welcome to the Creative Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Isolde Trachtenberg. On the show, you'll hear interviews with innovative creative artists, entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders. You'll have a front row seat as they explore their internal motivations that inspire them to grow, achieve, and innovate. Get their insights and realizations as I tease out answers to questions they've never even pondered before. This episode is brought to you by my upcoming book, Get Booked, a performer's guide to working with booking agents in the gig economy. Are you ready to thrive in gigs, big or small? Start with my Nailing Your Holiday Gigs checklist, your ultimate guide to crushing the holiday season. Grab it in the show notes and mark your calendar. The book drops January 2025. Get ready to go pro, book smarter, and own the gig economy. And now, let's get on with the show. Hello, and welcome to the Creative Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Isolde Trachtenberg. Thank you so much for being here. I consider myself a professional communicator. I'm a professional speaker, and I'm a voice care nerd. I really am, and I have to be. And sometimes that means doing things differently than the way other people do them. For example, I was invited to a work party last night, a business that I do business with pretty regularly. And I love all those people so much. And I went to the party, but I left pretty early for a couple of reasons. First of all, the music was pretty loud. And in order to hear much of anything, most people were having to shout. And I kind of went, I don't want to strain my voice. And so I made the decision that despite the fact that I was having a lovely time, I needed to leave. And the other part of this is I had early morning coaching clients, and so I needed to be fresh and ready. And sometimes that means that instead of getting to stay and party like I would have when I was 21 or 22, now I go home, I get good sleep, and I take care of myself, my brain, my mind, my body, and most of all, my voice. And I want to talk about voices in general, and specifically, let's talk about your voice. I'm sure you've been there. You feel that telltale scratchiness or the constant urge to clear your throat, right? That's a sign your voice might be getting strained or at the very least, tired. And in this busy holiday season, whether you're a gig worker who's relying on your voice for performances, someone who speaks a lot at work, or just someone with a packed social calendar, keeping your voice healthy is critical. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I know a thing or two about needing to take care of my pipes. Over the years, I've learned how to keep my voice strong and vibrant, even during the most hectic times, like this holiday season. So today, I want to share my tried and true tips to help you do the same. By the end of this episode, you're going to have a toolkit to protect those vocal folds and keep your voice in peak condition, ready to meet the demands of this entire holiday season. So first, I want to talk about understanding vocal strain. What happens to our voices during the holidays? Between noisy parties, outdoor gigs, lots of chatting, we're often shouting to be heard or overusing our voices without proper care. And if you've ever ended a party hoarse or found yourself croaking the next morning, you know what I'm talking about. Your vocal folds are delicate. Think of them as the strings on a violin. Beautiful when cared for, but easily damaged without proper handling. So how do we keep things in tune? Sorry for the bad pun. I just realized I was making it. I don't normally make puns, or at least not on purpose. When I do, I have to acknowledge them and apologize because they're usually pretty bad. Okay, so here are the tips that I have for you to help you keep your voice and the whole apparatus steady. Again, not a doctor, but I've found that this works for me, and I think it might work for you too. Number one, Earplugs. They're a game changer. And you might be wondering, why earplugs? Well, when you're in loud environments, your natural response, everybody's natural response, is to raise your voice, which strains your vocal folds. Earplugs reduce the overall noise level, making it easier to monitor how loud you're speaking and avoid shouting. So I suggest that you keep a pair of high-quality, reusable earplugs in your bag. I carry a backpack, so I always have earplugs with me, sometimes more than one pair if I know I'm going to be somewhere with my husband, because he never carries them. And when we go to a show or a concert or something, he needs them often, so I usually keep at least 2 pairs with me. And I'm not talking about the foam ones that you'd wear to sleep. I want you to look for ones designed for musicians. They lower noise levels, but they maintain sound clarity. So you're still going to hear the music and the conversations around you, just not at a decibel that forces you to shout. Second tip is seek quiet places. Loud spaces are really the enemy of a healthy voice. Instead of shouting over the music or the people around you, take control of your environment. Move to a quieter spot to continue your conversation. This simple shift not only protects your voice, but also it kind of makes it easier to have more meaningful connections and conversations. So here's a little tip for you. At the next gathering you go to, scout out the quieter corners as soon as you arrive. Knowing where to go is going to save you unnecessary strain. I did that last night. I found a little spot that was, please don't get me wrong, the DJ last night was fantastic. I loved the music he was spinning. It was great. It was just really loud. And for me, really loud hurts my ears. It ends up hurting my voice. It ends up giving me a headache. And I love music, and you know I love music. I'm a musician, of course. And if it's too loud, then it becomes more painful than it is enjoyable. So I find spaces that are quieter, and I often will hang out there. I'm not particularly being introverted when I do this. I am being more taking care of my mechanism, taking care of my instrument when I do this. But there are introverts out there who'll go, yeah, quieter spaces are better. If you're an introvert, that's a really good thing to do. Find a quiet space, hang out there. And, again, if you feel the need to walk outside for a bit, do that. I did that a couple times too, and it was lovely. I had a lovely view of the fog, misty Empire State Building, and it was amazing. I might put a picture up in the show notes so you can see how stunningly gorgeous it looked out there where I was last night. Okay, next tip. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Hydration, drinking lots of water, is the key to keeping your vocal folds flexible and healthy. Throughout the day, sip on water pretty consistently. And if you're drinking alcohol at a holiday party, make a habit of alternating each alcoholic beverage with a glass of water. Alcohol is going to dry out your vocal folds, and staying hydrated counteracts that effect. For an added oomph, consider warm, non-caffeinated drinks like herbal teas. They're soothing, and they're going to help keep your vocal folds moisturized. I tend to drink herbal tea starting at about, I would say 3 or 4, because I don't want a lot of caffeine. Yes, I drink caffeine, and yes, I know it's a diuretic, and yes, I know it dries you out. While I'm drinking caffeine in the early part of the day, I'm also alternating with lots of water, because I want to keep all of that going for as long as possible. I want to keep my voice healthy into my 80s and 90s, right? I don't want to be one of those people who has lost their voice because I didn't take care of it properly. And frankly, I'm a nerd. I want to seek out all of the different ways that I can in order to keep my voice healthy. And some of these are pretty simple. Drink lots of water, drink non-caffeinated drinks like herbal tea. And this next one is my secret weapon. After every event, whether it's a gig or a party, anything like that, I come home and I gargle with warm salt water. Every single time. And what you need there is a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to about 8 ounces of water. Warm it up and gargle. I'm telling you, it is a lifesaver. And I can't tell you how many of my singing students I have had come to me and say, my voice is gone and I have a gig tomorrow night. And I say, every 30 minutes, gargle with warm salt water like crazy. Just do it, do it, do it, do it. and they're amazed at the miracle that their voice comes back. It comes back because, yeah, vocal rest, of course, but keeping all of that salt water going through and sort of getting rid of whatever's mucking up the works there is incredibly helpful. So I can't recommend it highly enough. The next tip I have for you is warm up and cool down. Just like an athlete's going to stretch and warm up before and after a workout, your voice needs a warm up and a cool down too. Before you head out to a gig or a party, spend a few minutes on some simple vocal exercises. Lip trills, or as I like to call it, the horse noise. Yeah, think of a sound a horse makes. And the way to do it is you make what I call tuba lips or duck lips. Put your lips together, kind of, and then blow. And that sound is a really good way to sort of gently loosen things up. And the horse noise is unvocalized, so it sounds like that. And then there's the motorboat noise, which is, and that is vocalized, and that will also warm up your voice, and you cannot make that noise without supporting with your breath. If you try to make the noise without supporting with your breath, it sounds like this. Not what we want, right? So you want to be supporting with your breath. You want to be doing the horse noise, which is not vocalized, and then also do the motorboat noise, which is vocalized. And then after a long evening of talking or singing, cool down with some gentle humming or just some low-pitched sort of sighs, if you will. Ah, ah. Just very gently on yourself, supporting with your breath, and that's going to help your vocal folds recover, and it's going to reduce inflammation. Again, not a doctor. It's just the stuff that I found that works for me. The next thing, sometimes you got to rest. Your voice needs rest as much as it needs exercise. If you've had a particularly vocal heavy day, give yourself the gift of silence. Practice vocal naps or vocal daydreams, right? Periods of like 10 to 15 minutes where you don't speak at all. This is really especially important if you're performing multiple gigs or attending back-to-back events. Give your voice a chance to reset a little bit. I forget which. There was a famous opera singer who started getting nodes on her vocal folds, and she was terrified that she was going to lose her voice, and she went to an otolaryngologist, and that person said to her, I need you to go away for 6 months and make no sound at all. No speaking, no nothing, no sound. Rest your pipes. And she did. And she came back after not speaking for 6 months, not making any vocal sound. And he said, okay, let's start our work. And the very first thing he had her do, and for the next couple of weeks, all she did was light a candle and blow it out. Just whew. That was all she did for a few weeks before she started being able to actually use her voice again. And it's because if you want to, like any injury, like any wound, if your vocal folds are injured or wounded, they need a chance to heal up. And one of the things that I am just terrified of is surgery. And the most famous botch of that is, of course, the great Julie Andrews. They did surgery on her vocal folds and mucked it up. I cannot imagine being the surgeon who mucked that up, who mucked up one of the greatest voices ever. She can't really sing anymore because in surgery, they screwed up. Whatever they did, they screwed up, and she can't sing, which is tragic for her, of course, and tragic for the rest of us because we don't get the incredible joy of hearing her sing anymore. And so I aim to stay surgery-free when it comes to that sort of stuff. I would like to never have surgery again of any kind. And so, especially for my vocal folds, which are so delicate and so fragile, I want to be sure that I am taking incredible care of them so that that is not at all an issue. All right, next tip. Mind your posture and your breathing. Good posture and diaphragmatic breathing are your secret weapons for voice health. They just are. Stand or sit tall to give your lungs and diaphragm the space they need to do their jobs. Breathe deeply and support your voice with your breath. And that horse noise, if you want to get in touch with how to do that, make the horse noise, because you cannot do that without using your diaphragm. You want to be sure that you're supporting your voice with your breath rather than forcing it from your throat. This whole thing will reduce tension, and it's going to allow your voice to project without a whole bunch of effort. And there's a lot to be said for choosing focal points and all of that. It's for a different episode. And I think I'm probably going to do a lot of voice stuff in the next, in the coming year. You're going to hear a lot of communication episodes, but also how do you use your voice so that it sounds its best and you are the most resonant, the most persuasive, the most excited, the most wonderful speaker that you possibly can be. Your vocal prowess is part of that. Yes, the words you say are part of it, but how you use your voice to say those words is also part of that. So you want to be sure that you're applying good technique, whether you're speaking or singing. The next thing is you got to know when to say no. Listen to your body. If your voice feels tired or strained, don't push through it. It's okay to skip a party and even perhaps reschedule a gig to protect your vocal health. Now, rescheduling a gig is tough, particularly if you are the headliner. But I remember famously Phil Collins, he was playing Pine Knob in Michigan for 2 nights. And I went the first night and he was great. I had an amazing time and I was, I think, 16 or 17 years old, something like that. And that night, apparently, he partied super hardy and into the morning hours. And the next night's show, he got up there, he started to play, and he just went, you know what? I just can't. I'm still drunk. I partied too hard in Detroit last night. I can't. You all will get all your money back. So sorry. And he left the stage. I wasn't there for this. I had friends who went that night and they were bummed out. But you know what? The thing is, he knew for himself, I am incapable, of giving a good performance, right? I mean, if you're that messed up, you're not going to be able to do a great job for your audience. And if you're a performer of any kind, you know your audience is paramount. So sometimes you sort of go, okay, I cannot do my best. And if you are in Phil Collins' camp, if you party too hardy, sometimes you have to go, okay, I cannot do this, and you step away. Now, as a gig worker myself, it would take a lot for me to say, oh, I can't do this gig. I'd have to be really pretty sick because I have developed alternative means of entertaining people. I remember I was working at the old post office pavilion many years ago, and I would do 2 or 3 days a week of gigs there during lunch hour. And the thing about it was, there were times when, especially if someone smoked anywhere near me, I would lose my voice. I'm allergic. That's the way it was. I still am allergic, so that's the way it is. But anyway, what would happen is I would go, oh, I have no voice to sing with. So I'd bring flutes and my violin and my guitar, and I would do an instrumental set. Now, if what they're really interested in is your vocals, that's a different story. But if you can be a little bit more flexible with what you do and you have these other things to fall back on, don't be afraid to utilize them. The other part of this is don't be afraid to say no to social events and engagements. This time of year, I even posted on Facebook, hey, look, it's a rare sighting of the wild gigging Isolda, because I was actually out doing something social last night instead of being a hermit, which I usually do this time of year because I want to protect my voice. I'm doing a lot of gigs, whether I'm singing or doing tarot or doing professional speaking engagements. This time of year is very, very busy and can be very taxing on my voice. So I don't tend to go out a lot because I want to be sure that I keep my voice healthy for my work. In January, you can bet your bippy I'll be going out a lot because January is generally a gig-free kind of month where we're gig workers of any kind, whether you're a professional speaker, a musician, a tarot reader, a juggler, whatever you are. You know that everybody's partied out and most people don't do January events unless they're the smart kind of companies, for example, who are now doing their holiday celebrations in January. They wait after the whole holiday season is over and then they do their holiday parties because everybody is more relaxed and more entertainers are available and it's just a lot less stressful. So if you're one of those people and you're booking entertainers, first of all, yes, I'll be available. But second of all, yeah, you might be working then, but for the most part, traditionally, January is a month to recuperate rather than a month to gig. But we're not in January yet, so here's my thing. If you're invited to parties, but you're feeling tired or stressed or your voice is strained or feeling like it might get strained, sometimes you just have to say no. And the way to think about it is that a rested and healthy voice is going to be far more valuable to you than risking any kind of long-term damage because you went out and didn't take care of yourself as well as you could have. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. If this is the thing you want to do, then you do it. Hey, your thing. And I'm here to tell you, taking care of your voice long-term, super, super important. And that's because your voice is a gift. It's how you connect, it's how you inspire, it's how you express yourself. And by taking these simple but really super powerful steps, you're going to ensure that it stays vibrant and strong, not just through the holidays, but all year. All right, that is my little list of things to do to take care of your voice. And I'd love to hear from you. If you've tried any of these tips, I would love to know how it went. And if you have your own go-to strategies for vocal care, I'd love to know them. If they're not the ones I'm talking about, give them to me. I'll talk about them next year because I do this every year, this kind of episode, and I'll give you credit on the show. So yes, send me a message or tag me on social media. I want to keep talking about this because I think keeping our voices healthy so that we can keep expressing ourselves, so that we can keep speaking up and speaking out is incredibly crucial now and into the future. I'm Isolde Trachtenberg, and I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. This is the Creative Solutions Podcast, and until next time, I remind you, as always, to take care of yourself, to take care of others, and to leave everything better than you found it. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here. Please subscribe to the show if you're new, and it would mean the world to me if you told a friend about it. Today's episode was produced by Isolde Trachtenberg and is copyright 2024. As always, please remember this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Past performance does not guarantee future results, although we can always hope.